Oh, we are live right now. Josh, how come I don't know
Hey,
how to do my overlay
this is what
intro? This is what happens
this
when
is what
I run the
happens when you
show
have
instead
amateurs running the.
of
Three, two, one.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Build and Grow with Real Estate Show. My name is Judah Hoover, your co-host. With me here, down here at the bottom of the screen is Josh Weidman, and this guy right over here is a good friend of mine, Craig Fuhr, who I've known for 3 years, but it feels like 8 to 10. Man, got nothing but love and appreciation for you. And I apologize for the botched cold opening there. That was certainly not the intent. There's a delay when you close the show, but apparently there's no delay when you open the show. So I was trying to open the show and then play the bumper music, and I just totally messed that up. Josh, 99% of the times is the one who runs the show. Josh is out in the field today, and so I am here holding down the fort. I'm a real estate investor and I'm a realtor. Josh is a real estate investor and he's a hard money lender. The show is called Build and Grow with Real Estate because we think that real estate is a great way to make money, to pay your bills every month. Whether you're a realtor, whether you're a lender, whether you're an appraiser, whether you work at a title company, whether you work in the trades, real estate is an awesome vocation. And it also, if you get into the real estate industry that way, it is a great way to build wealth. And there is a lot of people out there who will tell you how to be the best realtor ever. And there's a lot of people out there who will tell you how to invest in real estate. There's not a whole lot of content or shows to people who want to do and actively be in both of those worlds at the same time. I've actively been in both of those worlds at the same time for the past 20 years. So has Josh. And that's what this show is all about. So, thank you very much for joining us. We are here with my good buddy Craig Fuhr, who lives in Baltimore, Maryland, or thereabouts. Where exactly are you in, like downtown?
God,
proper?
no. I don't own enough guns to live in Baltimore, brother. I live in Ellicott City, about halfway between DC and Baltimore.
Gotcha. Outstanding. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And so on Mondays we do a lot of content. We do a lot of teaching and preaching on what it takes to actually succeed in the real estate world. On Fridays we do news of the world and how it relates to real estate. On Thursdays we have a guest on to talk about who they are, what they're doing, and how they got their journey in real estate. Dude, I love your story because you've had peaks and valleys along the way, some your fault, some not your fault. What were you doing how old were you when you bought your first piece of rental real estate, and what were you doing before that? Because you didn't do this at 21, right? Like you just came a little bit later in life to you.
No, it's really a great story if you'll indulge me for a minute or so. I was working for the IRS at the time, and I was commuting from Baltimore, actually north of Baltimore, to DC every day.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like a 2-hour commute with all the stops in the metro, and it really was like, it was 4 hours a day, man. That's a part-time job just in commuting, right? So I'm working in IT and I'm making all right money. And I meet a girl, and I'm 36 at the time. So like, it's just, I owned businesses prior to this, and just decided I needed to go get a job. So I worked for the IRS, and I meet this girl, and I keep hearing these ads on the radio for an investing school, that you can go to. And without mentioning them, because it was a complete debacle, I go to this school and I learn how to do marketing. So I send out all my letters, and the phone starts ringing. Lo and behold, I get a call from a tired landlord. I go meet this guy. It's a townhouse in Columbia. And dude, this is 2000.
Columbia, Maryland.
Columbia, Maryland, right? Very hot area, very desirable. And so this is 2004.
Great location.
Yeah. I mean, if I could do every single one of my rehabs for the rest of my life in 21045, I would be, gold. So, so I get this house under contract. It's 125 grand. I shake the guy's hand and I'm like, holy crap, what did I just do? I can't believe I don't have the money to do this. I don't have a dime to my name. And I just shake this guy's hand like, oh yeah, this is a done deal, dude. So I go home to my girlfriend and I tell her what I just did. And she was like, oh, that's no problem at all. Just go ask my father. He'll give you the money. And I'm thinking like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever had you've ever had in your life. I really liked her a lot. And I figured if I messed it up, there was like no way that this
Right.
relationship was ever going to work.
Right.
So she, over a course of several beers and days, convinces me to do it. So I go tell the guy the story. It's 125 grand purchase price. And I think it needed about 25 grand in work. It was like lipstick on a pig, and like we weren't doing like a whole lot to it. And back at the time, it would seem like $1 million though. Right.
Right.
And so before I could get all the numbers out of the deal, he's like, sounds great. Well, let's do it. 50-50. I'll put up all the money. You put up all the work. We'll split the profits 50-50. And I said, great. So we get to work on this thing, and Judah, 90 days later, literally almost to the day, we stick a for sale sign in the lawn. And if you remember, 2004, the market's taken off like a rocket ship. It was even hotter than it is right now, right?
Yep.
We stick a for
By
sale.
the way, I try to tell everyone that I got started in 2002, 2003, and I tell everybody, guys, this is not even as hot as 2006 or 2007 was.
Yeah,
like
dude,
it's a hot market. It is not.
By the way, don't ever interrupt me again. So anyway, I'm joking.
Nobody knows how good of friends you and I are, buddy.
Very good.
It's great.
So we stick a for sale by owner sign in the lawn. And I mean, like 45 minutes later, the phone is ringing. We get a above listing price offer, and we literally $98,000 net profit on my very first deal ever. Very first deal.
Wow.
And the best part of it all is I wound up marrying the girl.
Nice. That's the real net profit.
I know, dude.
Because I know you're still married to her.
Yep.
I have to suffer through all your lovey-dovey, so sweet they give me a cavity Facebook posts and everything like that. So that is absolutely great.
Yeah, man. It's been 16 years, and so I was, got married pretty late, but in love with my wife more today than I was for all the yesterdays combined. So,
nice.
I'm gonna write that down. All the yesterdays combined, yes. So I fast forward a couple years. Now, you would have thought like make 98 grand on the very first deal, we'd be off to the races and just, explode. Well, I realized that my father-in-law, he wouldn't do another deal unless it was this deal. And as you know, that's a grand slam home run in the bottom of the ninth, 98 grand. So I kept taking him all these deals, and he kept saying, no, that won't work. So it wasn't until a couple years later that I actually started doing deals again, and things started to take off. Well, I was 40 years old. The day after my 40th birthday in 2007. I'm now working up in Maryland, still in IT, full-time job, working as a contractor for the government, doing, making six figures plus a year. And I get a call into the office. Now, this is the day after my 40th birthday. And by the way, my son's birthday is the day after mine. So It was his first birthday. So that morning, I'm all excited. It's my son's very first birthday, my first son, my only child at the time. And I go to work and I get fired from my job that morning. My wife likes to say, no, you got laid off. Don't tell people you got fired. That'll make you sound like a loser. Well, I wasn't going back. There was no plans for them to bring me back at some point. So I got no severance, no nothing. And dude, that was the day that I decided that I just, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't work for someone else anymore. And luckily, I had another oar in the water, and that was with real estate. I was already doing 10, 12 deals a year. The following month, so that was April of 2007. In May of 2007, I did 2 wholesale deals and made 50 grand, and I never looked back.
Right. So that's awesome, man.
End of show.
Right. Exactly. Boom. Period. The end.
Yeah. And we lived happily ever after. It's all been like that ever since then.
Right. But you've also I know you've done a lot of consulting for some other companies. I know you've gotten some other hard money operations off the ground, mm-hmm. and you've helped to lend your weight and credibility to some other brands. Talk about that a little bit. How because it's one of the hallmarks of this show, and you can speak more intelligently to it than what even a lot of our other guests can. The value of working in the real estate world, and being a real estate investor. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So, look, man, I think in this business, you can make money in 3 ways, right? You can make cash now, you can make cash flow or you can make cash later. If you
Right.
just keep that in mind as opportunities come across your plate, you can then evaluate that opportunity for, well, what do I need now? Do I need cash now? Okay, well, I can wholesale it or flip it. So I think to answer your question, it's an industry where you really don't have to be pigeonholed into, hey, I'm going to be a wholesaler, or I'm just going to be a rehabber, or, I think you can be anything you want to be in this industry, so long as you start off with a plan to build a business. You can't be a wholesaler, a rehabber, a lender, a landlord. You can't be all of those things if you don't run them like separate businesses, because they
Right.
each are a business. And so I think that's one of the big lessons, honestly, Judah, that I've learned over the last several years, is that, in the beginning, for the first few years, I was really running a glorified hobby. I wasn't running a business. It was, and the way you understand, folks, if you're running a business or not, is that if it's got to have three things. It's got to be consistent, it has to be replicable, and it has to be scalable. And when I looked at my business back over the first few years, it was none of those things. I had none of the. It was none of the above.
I'm literally taking notes, Craig. I don't know if you could tell that or not. So say those things again. Replicable.
Yeah, any real business has to be consistent, and predictable. It has to be replicable. Your results have to be replicable, and it has to be scalable. So let's take a look then at like a home builder versus a home flipper, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we have publicly traded flippers? Why don't, there's plenty of rehab companies in the United States that do 70, 100 houses a year. How come none of those are publicly traded?
That's a great question.
Well, I'll tell if you don't. So the reason is because they're not consistent,
right,
and they're not replicable. When
right,
you walk into a house that's grandmom's house and it's 100 years old, you could buy the house next door and run into completely different set of issues, right?
Right.
Whereas if you're a home builder, if you build that house once or twice, your costs down to the nail, down
right,
to the penny. And
right,
so the only variable in that case becomes the land and the materials, and the labor. With our business, with flipping, the variables are endless. And so one of the things about this business that I find so, sort of disconcerting from a flipping standpoint is that it's not a great quantity business. It's a great quality business. Tell me one rehabber that that's running a quantity business who's killing it right now.
Right.
Who
right.
isn't miserable.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is they don't have a quality of life that I'm interested in. I got to tell you, that's half the reason why I have limited a lot of my real estate endeavors, and why I don't try to flip 150 houses a year. And I've been on teams that have done close to that, because you can't do that all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was buying 10 houses a month, mm-hmm. 8 to 10 houses a month, the stress is so high. Then you don't like the people you're working with, and the reason people get into real estate, and to begin with, is for some flexibility and for some freedom and things like that. And then you built this monster that eats your life. And the way I describe it is this, and I'm sorry to interrupt and derail you, but I looked at most flippers, and they build 2 machines that need fed every month. And if they ever run out of houses for their suckers that they're selling houses to, or suckers to buy their houses, they're in trouble. Like, they've got to always be feeding 2 monsters every month.
Yeah, if you're a wholesaler in this market right now, where there's no loyalty, it used to be where I would have, 3 or 4 wholesalers calling me first, and they would, hey, Craig, here's the deal. And we could go back and forth a little bit, but we'd both win. Right. Now it's like, no, I'm just going to put it out there to the world and let the thing get bid up to the moon, where you're constantly, as the wholesaler, having to find the greater fool, right? you now get a house under contract, and you know that guy who you just sold the last one to ain't gonna buy from you because he didn't make any money on the deal that you sold him. You made all the money.
Correct.
And now you've got to go out and find the next greater fool. And I think that's we're sort of coming back to that place again in 2005-06, Judah, that you and I saw, where, you know, a lot of people are in danger of getting bit really, really hard. Now, I don't think the bottom's going to fall out immediately in this thing. It never does. But I think if you're a wholesaler and you're holding, 10 houses and you've got contracts, deposits on them, and you don't have, and look, everybody has the weasel clause that they can get out of the thing, but nobody wants to be a weasel, right?
Right.
And so I knew a guy back in the day where he was the biggest wholesaler in Maryland. He got hit so hard he had to go back to work. He had to go back to his regular job. And this guy had Class A office space, and he built the machine that we talked about.
Wow, that's crazy. But that is so crucial what you say there about it being a good deal for everybody, and there not being, and unfortunately, a lot of people operate without any integrity. And I always say there's got to be enough meat on the bone for the next guy, right? Because if it's a deal at, let's say, 120,000, like you talked about there, that was a deal at 125,000. Well, if you were going to wholesale that, you might. Well, I want to make some money, so I'm going to wholesale this for, 130 or 140. I see people out there who would take that deal and say, well, yeah, but if I can sell it to somebody for 180, I'm going to. Yeah. And it's my job to sell it to whoever I can for as much as I can, and consequences be damned. Well, consequences be damned. Like, I'm 41. I thought that way when I was 21 and 22. I can't believe that there's people older than 35 who that's their approach to business.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much an age thing, man. I think it's just it's a business proficiency thing.
Right.
I think as someone who's in business, look, we're all in this business to make money, right?
Right.
But if you're in the business for the long haul, you don't screw over guys like me and you.
Right.
You don't make 50 grand on the deal when I make 20. I don't mind. Look, I've paid a $40,000 wholesale fee. I've paid a $60,000 wholesale fee, but I made 100 on the deal.
Right.
I've gotten paid $25,000 and $30,000 wholesale fees, but the person who I sold it to was going to make $70,000 or $80,000 on the deal.
Correct.
If I'm the guy with all the risk,
right,
you as the wholesaler shouldn't be making all the money.
Correct.
Right? And I think that notion, that sort of unwritten rule that you and I and Josh probably followed, I think that thing has been sort of thrown out the window, because I think you've just got a lot of opportunists in the market right now, people who are not really running businesses.
And what's unfortunate is they're not going to last. Even if we don't even need a downturn. We just need to not be in a white hot market, and a lot of that goes away. Yes. And I think that with that, we definitely could see a lot of that coming. I like also what you said, that, if you're looking for the bigger fool, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of times that I always say that if my way out of a deal is finding a bigger fool than me, then I don't even want to get into the deal to begin with.
Right. I have a student, Justin Van Ripper. He's in the St. Louis area, and he's got a great system where he finds the buyers first. And so when he goes to sell a house, man, he's basically just filling an order. So he's got a landlord buyer who wants to find houses in a particular zip code, and he finds out exactly what they want. And then he just goes out and finds the houses. And that may be through other wholesalers or through agents. But when he sells a house, it's already sold when he puts it under contract. And that's sort of been the way I always operated as a wholesaler, even though I didn't do a tremendous amount of wholesaling because I enjoyed flipping houses way more. But that's the way I operated. I didn't want to send my deals out to the world and have every tire kicker, calling me and emailing me, trying to get the last penny out of me,
Right. Yeah. Well, it's the expression is, you can shear a sheep 100 times, but you can only skin it once. And there's a whole lot of wholesalers who are skinning a bunch of sheep right now, and they don't realize that the people who are going to survive this thing are a lot of people who have ticked off. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you've seen a number of ups and downs and things like that. You said you have a student. Tell me a little bit more about what your coaching looks like, because you do coaching a little bit different. It's not 100% unique, but it's different than kind of the old model of, hey, pay me $5,000 and we'll have a weekly call for an hour and a half a day where it's one-on-one, or an hour and a half a week where it's one-on-one. So tell me how your company operates and what you do, because I love it.
So a friend of mine, Sean McCloskey, who's been in the business a long time, started a company called Leadership Boardroom a few years ago after he was running another company for 10 years. And it's really more life coaching and sort of business coaching, like how to have a business that serves you rather than one that enslaves you, and sort of live your best life at the same time. I can't tell you how many people I've coached over the years who've come to me and said, man, I'm killing it right now, but I'm miserable. I'm killing it right now, Craig, but I never see my kids' game. I just made more money than I've ever made in a month, but my wife is ready to leave me. I hear that all the time. And so, God has sort of gifted me with this unique ability to have people want to tell me their life story as soon as they meet me. And I never knew what to do with it. So I was teaching people how to just flip houses for years. I've been doing that for a long time. I've coached hundreds of students on how to wholesale and rehab houses. And I love it, still do today. But what I really love, Judah, is like what we're doing now. I love it like when you and I go out to lunch and I get to learn about you and what's ticking in your life and how to optimize what you're doing so that you get that freedom that you said you were getting in the business for, but you've never really got.
Right.
I mean, how many people do we know? You've run 1 million RIA meetings. How many times did you say to those people, hey, let me ask you something. Name the one word why you got into this business. And they all raise their hands and they all say freedom or more money.
Right.
Those are the two big ones, right?
Right.
And then you ask them, so let me ask you all, how many of you, close your eyes right now, and I want you to envision that freedom that you dream of. How many of you are actually living that life? And like 0 raise their hands. You might get 2 people in the room. Right. And then you take it one step further and you say, okay, keep your eyes closed. I want to ask you, how many of you can name 5 people in your entire that who are living that life of freedom? And like 2 hands will go up.
Right.
Dude, this is the only life we get.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And so I just decided that, man, like my calling was going to be how to teach people how to own businesses that serve them, rather than businesses these huge machines that wind up enslaving them. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And if anybody wants, and you said that's Leadership Boardroom. By the way, Craig is an awesome Facebook follow, and Sean McCloskey as well. Just a great visionary leader, good Christian dude. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage our followers and listeners to check out both of those things.
What's crazy, man? I'm sorry, real quick. What's crazy is that we have there's a lot of people who are real estate investors we have over 100 people in it now. And so a lot of them are real estate investors. A lot of them are national speakers. And then we've got a guy who's an ear, nose, and throat specialist. We've got a dentist. We've got a guy who runs oil wells. And I mean, so.
Does you have somebody who's like runs a daycare? Like you have, I mean, like
no, he's a crazy story. So Tim and Sarah Urban, young couple in their early 20s, came to us and they were like, hey, well, we want to learn how to do real estate. And we do these mastermind retreats 3 or 4 times a year. And so we were at the retreat and we said to them, well, why do you want to do real estate? And Sarah kind of sheepishly pipes up and says, I really don't want to do real estate. We're like, well, why the hell are you? I mean, like your 20s, like, why would you even start? Like, if you don't want to, she's like, I really don't like anything about it. And so she said, I just want to teach kids how to speak Spanish. She was a Spanish teacher at a school, at a junior high school. And she was like, so if I could just do that for the rest of my life, but travel with my husband in an RV all over the country, I would be so happy. So we sort of like, we kind of laid out a little bit of a business plan. She went back home and she quits her job and she buys a brick and mortar storefront and opens a Spanish school. And she's killing it. I mean, instantly fills up. And she comes back to the retreat and she's not happy. And we're like, well, you got kind of, and she's no, I got half of what I wanted. I got out of my job, but now I have a business that I'm tied to. I can't go traveling with my husband in the RV. And so there, the beauty of the mastermind is somebody was like, well, get rid of the brick and mortar and just go back to the schools and tell them that you'll do an after school, like a daycare, like an after school care, aftercare from like 3 to 5 when the parents are still at work. And they're, this is, so it's huge. If you're a parent, you understand how big of a deal this is. Aftercare for kids is huge, and it's a massive need. And a lot of times these schools have no idea what they want to do with the students in the aftercare. So the students just sit around and do nothing. Well, she approached these schools and said, I'd like to run a Spanish camp in these schools daily. And they were so excited. They helped her market it.
Right.
Dude, at last count, this woman had over 300 schools around the country. She's now got, she doesn't even work that, she's got teachers who teach for her. And they're close to 8 figures.
That's ridiculous.
With very little overhead. I mean, like no overhead. So she'll travel like 6 months out of the year with her husband in an RV, and now they've got a kid. It's an amazing story, and we've got so many of those.
And so how that came from was, I think I want this, but people say they want the vehicle, but they don't actually want the vehicle. They want where the vehicle is going to take them.
Yeah, they want the outcome.
Right. Forget the vehicle. What's the destination? Okay, well, now if that's the destination, what's your happiest way of getting there? Well, my happiest way of getting there isn't actually this vehicle, it would be this vehicle. Well, great, let's put you in the vehicle you want and get you to the destination you want, and then ultimately you're happier. And that's what I love so much about so many stories. And the second thing that really resonates, Craig, about the way you do coaching, and even if people don't sign up for your coaching, this is what's so crucial, is it's amazing where ideas come from that you don't even know or understand. And it's why companies have a board of directors, is so that they can say, hey, you're missing this, you need to do this. I tell people all the time, whether you pay a coach, whether you you need to have accountability partners. You need to have people who you say, hey, listen, man, once a month, once a quarter, once a whatever, I'm going to come over, I'm going to sketch out what I'm thinking about doing for the next 3 to 6 months. And you tell me if I'm right, wrong, crazy, whatever. Yep. But people get into real estate, and because they want to fail privately, right? They don't want to fail in front of their friends. So they don't do the very thing that they should do, which is tell your friends, tell your father, tell people who know, like, and trust you and who you respect what you're thinking about doing, to find out, hold you accountable. But
So
make sure they're of a high enough quality, because there's so much messaging out there that says you wouldn't get I'll never forget the time in an Amway seminar I heard this. You wouldn't ask financial advice from the broke dude sitting next to you. You certainly would only go to a dentist for dental advice. So people take
none
that.
of those guys are broke.
Right. Well, exactly. So you take that messaging and you say, don't tell anybody about your business. Yeah. No, that's not the message. Tell the right people about your business.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, I'm sure you've read the book Traction.
Yeah.
And so it talks about sort of like the seats that should be filled within your business. And you should, the real estate and entrepreneurship can make you an island very quickly. You can become very lonely very quickly as a business owner.
Yep.
And so when you've got nowhere to turn, you turn inward, and the inner voice, I call it the inner lunatic, starts telling you yes and no at the same time. So you really do have to surround yourself with people who you trust. And one of the ways that we've taught people how to do it is, I don't know if you've ever been turned on to a great tool called the predictive index. You've heard of like Colby and DISC and Strengths Finders and all of those. Predictive index is, I guarantee if you take it, it'll probably be one of the dumbest things. You'll think to yourself, this is so stupid, because it's just words on a screen. And but it's 98% effective, and it's a behavioral assessment, and it tells you what you're good at and what you suck at and what you have a propensity for and what you really hate. And maybe that about yourself, but it will affirm it, I assure you. But even better than that, Judah, it also tells you sort of where your gaps are, where your holes are. Like, So if I'm I'm a maverick, right? I love ideas. I love flying at 30,000 feet. I don't, I'm not a daily management guy. That means I need to surround myself with people who are the daily management people. I need to surround myself with the people who are the implementers because I'm the idea guy, right? And so I would highly encourage everyone who, if you're sort of searching for your why and who you are, and if things aren't just really feeling like right in your life, I would highly encourage people to take a look at the predictive index.
Right. Hey, so just so you know, let's wrap up. So leadership boardroom, Google it, look it up, reach out to my friend Craig, reach out to me.
I thought you said this was an hour-long show.
No, this is.
Okay.
Listen, no, I have to this is the we force ourselves to really cut this off because otherwise we could go for forever. And that's the other thing, Craig, is this is one of the things that we really try to do, right? Is because there's a whole lot of content creators out there that they get on YouTube and they blabber for an hour and a half and they don't really say anything. They do a Facebook Live every day for 40 or 50 minutes and they don't really actually say anything. So we try to deliver a whole lot of content in a tight package. That's why we get between 600, 800, 1,200 views for each one of these shows. So to our dear listeners, we thank you very much. Let's end on a fun note. Let's talk about push-ups. So you set yourself a goal one time of doing 100 push-ups.
No, so what happened was I saw a video on YouTube. I'm 53 years old. I'm out of shape, and I see a video on YouTube that says do 100 push-ups a night for 30 days, and it'll change you. You'll see a difference. So I started doing that over a year ago, and I was so excited because I quickly got up to 100 a night. I was doing 100, 200, 300 a night. And it was last February, about a year ago, I was in St. Louis with Sean McCloskey and my co-coach, Chuck Bauman, and we were planning our event that we do in March. It's coming up actually in a couple weeks. And so I'm bored and, I'm tired. And what do? You get down on the floor, you start moving. We're in Sean's basement. I get down on the floor and I'm doing push-ups. And I'm telling the guys how excited I am because I can do 100 and 200 a night. And Chuck looks at me and he says, "That's not very impressive." And I wanted to reach out and smack the guy because for the first time, I'm on this thing. I'm doing it every night. And he goes, "You want to do something impossible, Craig? You want to do something impossible? Do 101 set in a single set. That's impossible." It is very, very difficult. But dude, the bigger point is that we all get lazy. Right. We all sort of, I know people that do above average things, but it's very easy for them. I know people that live sort of above average lives, but they're not really stretching themselves at all. And dude, it's in those moments when we really stretch ourselves, when we do the impossible, when we run an ultra marathon, that we see in ourselves the limits. We see that. And so quick story, man, great story. Yeah. So I did the 101 set. It was amazing. So that's awesome. Of our students, Dustin Hoog, he's a new student in one of our groups. He said, we were at a last retreat. It was only a month ago. And he was talking, he's overweight. He's been as high as 350 pounds. He's been married for a few years, got a couple kids, and he does very well. He's a very accomplished real estate investor. But he's like, but I've had it sort of easy. It's all come very easily to me. And so we challenged him. We were like, dude, why don't you need to do something impossible to show yourself that you can do it, that you can lose the weight and you can get in shape. And he just mentions that he's always loved boxing, but he's never boxed. Dude, we got this guy to agree to a 5-round boxing match in November with a professional. And when I tell you, Judah, this guy is on fire. He's hired a coach. He's hired a nutrition coach. He's hired a boxing coach. He's hired a training coach. He's going to do it. And it's going to be amazing. And he will, and all he ever wants to do is inspire people. Think of how inspiring this is going to be. It's going to be amazing. It's going to launch him to another level. That's what we do, man. That's what we do.
I love that so much because there's so much. I don't know, man. I've been around for twice as long as you have, and I'm younger than you. And I have a sick taste in my mouth, just like you do yours. A lot of the gurus out there, And so you and what you do are totally different than that. And I just want you to know that I appreciate that about you. I affirm that about you, and I love that it's not just real estate; it's all levels of any type of business and all levels of success. And it's a very holistic approach, and it's authentic holistic approach, right? Like I see a lot of BS holistic approach that they're like, yeah, we teach people to sign up for some yoga classes. Yeah, take your wife out on a weekly date night. Yeah, we're holistic in our business coaching. Like you actually get into it. You know what I mean? Like so it's meaningful, and I just appreciate that. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to share this show, like this show, reach out to myself or Craig if you found anything that was meaningful or valuable here. Craig, we're definitely going to have you on again because this was just powerful stuff, and appreciate you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back tomorrow with all the news that is not fit to print. And I'm looking right now for the extra. Man, I cannot find my going out music.
Outro.
My outro music. Nope. We are just going to say goodbye. See you, ladies and gentlemen.
God bless.